as well. So, and if you subscribe to the town website at all, you'll get notifications of all the events that we are planning throughout the year, so subscribe. And I'm going to introduce Dr. Gallucci now. We're having a little fun with this one. She's the daughter of a former star first baseman, her mother, an exceptionally gifted cook, her father. She is an inherited fierce conscientiousness, unflagging optimism, and only moderately bridled enthusiasm. She's a professor and director of geriatric research at the University of New England College of Osteopathic Medicine and founding director of the UXL, an older adult fitness contracted program. She's been in these roles since she had black hair. Her goal in life is to change the world, affecting the change for all. Embrace aging. Thank you so much.
This is my pointer. Careful. Get a little rambunctious. Actually, what this is from is when I've run marathons. My last one was at 60s. I'm 68. And I'm thinking about doing one at 70. I started Disney when I was 40. So I did Disney at 40, 50, 60, maybe 70. I don't know. I think I would have been 6'2" if I didn't run. But so I've done 9 marathons, so it was kind of fun. But you can see this from a half mile away. Like the 100th running in Boston, 40,000 runners and all these people. You get dizzy trying to find your support system. And so this was great. And now ever since then, I've been using it as my pointer. And it works, especially when students are sleeping. Yeah. You can get them. So thank you all for being here, and Mary Lou, Allison, thank you for the invitation. We said it's about 4 years since I've been here, and I gave an overview of what we're doing at UNE and aging. I understand, I thought I'd go till 10, and then I understand that we can send out for lunch, and we can just so you all decide if you need to leave, go, and I'll be happy to answer questions and keep moving along. So this is a lot of stuff on here, but we're going to be talking about the power of aging, and we're actually going to be talking about ageism. So without really thinking about it, when you look at our society and how they view older people, what kind of drivers do they say they are? Slow, terrible, right?
Wear hats.
So you didn't hesitate on that. What kind of personalities does society say that older people have? What kind of personality? You're not even hesitating. So I was teaching in the UNE nursing program, and I was teaching in the Doctor of Physical Therapy program a couple of weeks ago, and I asked the class, it was like 70 of them, how many in this class are grumpy? And I had about half the class raise their hand. This is not bode well. Well, here's the thing. If you're grumpy when you're older, chances are you were grumpy or cranky when you were younger. You know, you're not really going to change. It's part of the essence of who you are. So if you're a happy person, if you love life, you get engaged, chances are you were that way all the way through. There is such a thing, though, as a C, a significant emotional experience. And that could alter you a little bit, but chances are you're going to go back to your core. So you might get kind of knocked off your feet if something has happened, and then all of a sudden you're going to say, all right, I'm done wallowing, or whatever it is I'm doing. This is not who I am. I want to go back to being an optimist or whatever. If you're always a pessimist, you're not going to change, right? You got to be really mindful about that. I like to think I'm an optimist. We've all proven our resilience, right? We're here. So there's some really important pearls for us to hang on to. I just wanted to tell you that UNE is an age-friendly university. We were the 5th university in the US and the 11th university worldwide. There are now over 90 universities, colleges and universities across the globe that are age-friendly. I have a meeting next week with 2 separate deans. We're meeting together. And we have Tom User, who runs our Center for Excellence in Aging and Health. And the goal of that meeting is to open up our classes to older adults in the community. So, and they're really excited about that. So we'll keep you posted on that. But that would be a really important thing. We need you in our classes with our students. We need you there because the students kind of have balance, and you can help ground them, really. So, and we can have some fun conversations besides. So I just wanted to quick run through some of my research for those of you that may not be familiar with it. We are the only medical school in the world, as far as I know. I present internationally on a program that I started in 2006 called Learning by Living Nursing Home Immersion. I admit medical students into nursing homes for 2 weeks to live the life of an older resident. So they are being toileted, they're being bathed, they're eating pureed foods. They have, you know, the oxygen, the nasal cannula, they're in a wheelchair, they're being transferred by the staff. And so these students, you know, they won't drink water all day because they don't want to have to ring the call. Right? That's what happens. And they do have a medication regimen because we give them a diagnosis, but their medications are M&Ms. But I tell you, if you're woken up at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning to get M&Ms, they're not happy. So let me show you, this has been covered worldwide. Let me show you this. This is from the CBS
The Joe
News.
Kim is just starting though.
Is that loud?
I've never been on the show before.
This fourth-year medical student is spending the next week and a half living among 514 residents at a nursing home in Upper Manhattan. Not as a doctor, but as a patient.
Today, just being even in this bed, I'm not even comfortable, although I'm just laying down.
Comfort isn't the goal of this program, called Learning by Living. Med students considering a specialty in geriatrics live life at the other end of the stethoscope. Marilyn Gallucci started the program 5 years ago.
It's about being in the shoes, in the wheelchair, living the life over an extended period of time. That's the key.
The students are assigned a diagnosis. Sue Chung is supposed to be a recent stroke victim.
So affected your right side primarily, right?
Taking a lot of adjustments here, not walking around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's different.
Everything's different.
Throughout the 10 days and nights, she was poked and prodded, fed pureed food, and retaught the basics, like how to dress.
You have to make sure that the gown clears the elbow.
She even learned to knit, one-handed. Each night, she recorded her impressions, in writing for school, and on video for us.
Traveling where I used to normally walk around became 10 times more difficult. It could be a very lonely place for the elderly here.
That is exactly the kind of empathy this exercise can foster, says geriatrician Veronica Lapazzo.
Without connection, you're not a good doctor.
Geriatrics is a field that could use a few good doctors.
And it's nice meeting everybody.
On the day of her departure, it was clear this critical part of Sue Chung's medical training had given her much more to think about than making money.
I never realized how vulnerable being on the other side was. I hope when I go back as a medical student, and hopefully a doctor too, that I remember how it feels to be the patient. I'll come back to visit, okay?
A lesson she could have only learned in a one-of-a-kind classroom. I love you. Jim Axelrod, CBS News, New York.
So Sue Chung was actually a fourth-year medical student at Mount Sinai School of Medicine, and then the young man in there is Matt Sharbo, who's now a full-fledged physician down in Connecticut. And I'm the adult daughter that admits them, so they look pretty good for like 85, right? But we just treat them just as if they are. And what was interesting, what would you think would happen on the last day of this experience? They're in a nursing home for 2 weeks. What do you think they want to do? Get out, right?
Stay.
Why not?
Because they've made connections with the other patients.
Precisely. Precisely. Could you tell me your name?
Marley.
Marley, I know you met. So that, Marley, that's exactly it. They've made connections. So I had this student, Will, and usually students go in after their first year of medical school because then they're off to parts unknown for the other 3 years. And Will went through his third year clerkships, which means that he had about 8 rotations in hospitals, away from the college, and just really studying medicine, working with patient care. And he contacted me at the end of his third year, and he said, they call me Dr. G. He said, Dr. G, I've had the humanity pressed right out of me by being in this hospital. And I need to reconnect with that because I'm not really sure of where I'm going. He said, will you put me in a nursing home? And I looked and I said, I don't know if this research will help you reconnect to your humanity, but I said, I'm happy to put you in a nursing home. So I found one in New Hampshire. And so we're like 4 different states, about, I don't know, 20 different nursing homes. No money changes hands. So in New York, that was $650 a day. We didn't have to pay for that student to be in that 800-bed home. But anyway, so I put Will in New Hampshire, and I'm the adult daughter, so, you know, I admit him, I visit him, he has to write a journal all the way through, I go through all that. The last day I go, we debrief with the staff. I get him back to Maine. I call him that night to check on him. He's like, hey, Dr. G, I'm back in New Hampshire. I drove down to have dinner with my friends. And I said to Will, did this help you regain your humanity? And he said it absolutely did. So that's a good thing, right? And my goal in life to change the world, if I can just have one person think differently about aging, then that person will carry that forward. And so what Will is doing, I get chills when I say that. When Will goes forward, that experience has changed him. That was a significant emotional experience for him. So that's kind of fun. So from that, in December 2014, I took the same methods, and now I admit pairs of students into the Gosnell Memorial Hospice Home in Scarborough. They go in for 48 hours, usually a Friday to a Sunday, instead of being the recipient of care because they have no idea how to die. Although some of their behaviors might. But they are the providers of care. We're in the nursing home, they receive care. In hospice, they provide care. So they share a room, all the other rooms are single for the patients there, and they do patient care, hands-on patient care, family support, and postmortem care. And over 48 hours, deaths will range from 2 to 10 deaths in 48 hours, and they usually have 5 to 6 on average. Again, when I show up on Sunday, you know, and I'm working with them throughout the weekend, when I show up on Sunday, they don't want to leave. They're not focused on the deaths, they're focused on the life that is in that home. And Hospice of Southern Maine, I just want to give this plug for any organization that is nonprofit, the care will be different. So please don't ever send anyone to a for-profit nursing home or a for-profit hospice. Please find out about the profit status because it will make a difference. This home, this one guy, his power of attorney, the person who made his healthcare decisions for him if he couldn't, he was in Gosnell to die. His power of attorney was the bartender at Bentley's. and this guy had a goal, the patient had a goal of having all of his friends from Bentley come, be out on the patio at Gosnell and have a rum and coke party. Now the physician wrote that the patient could have rum and coke. The patient should not have lived until Saturday. That hospice kept him alive for his wishes and pain-free so that he could get to his party. They had this, and the day was amazing. My students were there that weekend. They actually made a Harley sign and put it on the back of his wheelchair. And so he was the only one that had the rum and coke. Everybody else just had Coca-Cola. And then afterwards he said, okay, I'm ready. And then within 2 days he died. So that's the difference between a nonprofit, for-profit would never do that. Kept a woman alive until she can get to her daughter's wedding. They paid for all her dialysis. There was a difference there. So I just wanted to share that. Okay. This is my paid research, falls and all of that kind of stuff. So if any of you are noticing for yourself or others, if you Google Unicom UXL and go to Balancing Act, there are free manuals on there, there's free videos on there, and the research we last did with National Institute on Aging, all of those materials were done with older adults who were blind. And so when we give instructions, we have beginner to advanced action exercises. When we work with people who were blind, we'd say to them, put your feet about 10 inches apart. And they said, I don't know what 10 inches is. Can you say, put your feet hip width apart or shoulder width apart? And so we changed our instructions for people who couldn't see. And then we tested to make sure other people could follow this. So this was done with the Maine Center of the Blind, Visually Impaired. You could do this during your favorite TV show, just stand up, during your commercials, while you're brushing your teeth, while you're doing your dishes. You can fit in balance exercises easy. $54 billion a year goes into falls. People who fell, hospitalizations, the care partners who lose work because they have to take care of someone who fell. So staying on your feet is really critically important. You can also buy one of these manuals. It costs us $10 to print them. You're welcome to do that. And Mary Lou always has my contact information. So, okay. So here's our objectives right here. I'm going to talk about ageism, although I know all of you know what that is. I'm going to give a quick overview about why our society views aging that way. I mean, we've already decided that you're bad drivers and we are bad drivers and that we're cranky. Society already determined that. So, and then I'm going to talk about reframe the aging movement that's going on and then how you can challenge these, okay? Am I in your way, Carolyn?
No.
Okay.
But thank you for asking.
Okay. So I kind of, I'll go over here. There we go. Okay. All right. So let me show. Sorry. Now I got to go back. This is from the World Health Organization. Oh, Mary Lou, that's the thing. That was the issue. When this is on that presenter mode for me, I can't get the video on. That's what that is. So, yeah, let's see. Because this is the last video that I have. If I can pull this up. So what I want to do is, can I play that? No, see, that's the problem. So I need to get out of this mode. I need to get this going.
Is this part of ageism, not being able to read?
Absolutely is. There's a way to do this.
Oh, God, I can't read damn things. I need a legal pad and a pencil. I understand that.
Inside show display settings. Let's see what this does. Oh, I really want to show this too. Mysteries. I've done this before.
Might be strawberry or raspberry.
That wasn't it.
It might be. I still don't know.
Can you figure it out? You want to play this here, that doesn't play.
Right.
We need to get back rid of that. Yeah, but then I don't think it's going to Great time for another cup of coffee. It's a short video, but it's so good. Hour.
So Lorena? Yeah. We lived in Massachusetts and we had a place down there too, so it was like, yeah, so my husband's last name is, where it is, the camera store down there in Massachusetts. I live in Minnesota.
All right. What was it up?
Never a phase,
People like to talk very loudly to me.
No, I'm doing this without glasses, right? I was gonna say.
Oh, yeah, and one of my girls took her once this morning.
I'm gonna try one more thing, and if it doesn't work.
I have to ask Mary Lou, she picked them up and it was from a bakery. We'll ask Mary Lou. It's like 30 seconds. We could, yeah.
So what's this all about?
I'm too old for this.
You just want me to say what people say about me.
Weird question, I guess. My teacher says you'll grow out of it. It's just a phase.
It was never a phase. I never grew out of it.
People like to talk very loudly to me.
They say I look like this girl. You're looking still good for your age.
I'll figure it out when I'm older.
You are having a senior moment.
When the focus is on my age, life seems to get a little bit harder.
It feels like I'm not given a chance.
I need to keep up.
Or get out of the panic experience. Or too much experience.
I'm baggage. Only weighing people down.
Looking at my age like it is a disease. When I work, no one takes me seriously.
It makes me feel powerless.
And it is.
When people see only my age.
So that's from the World Health Organization, and I think that is quite powerful, actually. So let me just get back into my PowerPoint here. There we go. All right, where are we going? There we are.
Which user?
Okay. All right. So there was one word in there, there were a lot of words in there, but there was that one word in there that always grabs me, and I always try to be careful not to use it. You're still good for your age. Yeah. You're still running. You're still, still. What does that imply?
It's over.
Yeah, it implies
Right.
just downhill from now.
And if you're still doing it, you must be pretty amazing because you're still able to do this.
Yeah.
No. Try to catch yourself. You're going to be surprised how much you say that word. I always try to catch myself on that. So let me just run through some definitions very quickly. Oops, I got the wrong one. Okay. So Robert Butler, who was a colleague of mine, a mentor actually, he actually wrote the first book on ageism. He coined the term, Why Survive Being Old in America, and that was in 1976. And I actually used that book in my doctoral dissertation. And he talks about ageism being a systematic stereotype discriminating against old people. But this is the part. They see older adults, people see them differently, and they suddenly cease to be human beings. That's from society, right? And if you're in a cohort of people who really care about you, then you know that you're viable, you're good. But how many of you might have adult children or other people in your life that say, don't do that, you know, you're too old to do that, don't lift that bucket, whatever it is, right? And geez, you know, if you didn't learn some wisdom through all these years and figure out what you can and can't lift and what you can and can't do, you know, and have people trust you, and if you can't do it and you do it anyway, then maybe you deserve to have whatever happened to you. That's all part of learning, right? Why should that be any different in your 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100s than from when you were in your early years moving forward? So then the World Health Organization, they refined this recently, 2021. The stereotypes are really how we think. The prejudice is how we feel. And the discrimination is how we act. Now, the three levels of this is that it happens at the societal level. So I said, you know, how does society view older people, you know, their personalities, whatever, cranky, whatever. The interpersonal, so that's the interactions between us. But this one is the one I'm really concerned about, self-directed. And I'll get into that in just a little bit. What is our self-talk around our aging? And how much of that self-talk is because society made us think that way. So, and the bottom line, the research on ageism actually shows that the negative stereotypes include helplessness, frailty, childlike qualities. How many people have gone up and said, Bev, how are you today? Well, you look. That's elder speak, and you just want to smack the person, right? But that's what happens. And I'll talk about how that elder speak comes across in a little bit too, so just hang on to that. But here's the key. These negative stereotypes, if you buy into it yourself, you will have a decreased will to live. Anybody who buys into this. You will have less desire to live a healthy lifestyle. You will take care of yourself as well. You'll have impaired recovery from illness. It's going to be harder to bounce back because you're going to feel like, what's the use? You know, I'm 103. Why should I keep living? There's a lot of reasons to keep living. Increased stress and shortened lifespan. So you're not going to get to 103 if you don't have a positive attitude about aging. Your own aging and aging in general. And what makes this so tricky is that our society is constantly bombarding us. So here we have geriatric. It is actually an adjective, and it really is about people with significant disorders. So if you are part of the geriatric population, then right away when you go see a healthcare provider, they are going to try to find your problem list. They are not going to try to find your possibility list. So if they say, well, you're my first geriatric patient today, you kick them in the knee. You say, I am not a geriatric patient. I am Joan, I'm Marilyn, and I came here because I want to discuss some things with you. And you put that out there. Now this is interesting. So this is, Merriam-Webster dictionary, all that. Look at this, geriatric animals. What the heck? But then I found this guy. It was right on the lawn outside. There is a geriatric animal. If you haven't seen one before, we got it now. So Mary Lou, why do you have these guys running around the library?
We feed them. We feed them leftover scones.
So what I want to bring your attention to is this adjective thing again, for those of you that are English. So we have an adjective describes a noun. So here we have a geriatric squirrel or an elderly squirrel. Elder is the noun. As soon as we put ly on that, we have an adjective. What happens in your mind when you hear that someone is elderly? Means they're done. Yeah. What other words come to mind?
Frail.
Frail, right? Frail, sick.
Deficient.
How many times do we read in the newspaper elderly? So I'm one of the founding board members of the Maine Council on Aging. We have been meeting like with Greg Kesich, and we've been meeting with reporters and other newspapers to say you have to get elderly out of there. And for any of you that know Kelly Bouchard, who did the whole Aging Maine series, this was 2014, I think. We got on her case, it's like you're using elderly all through this. And she said, but the people who, my bosses, are saying older adult or older person takes up too much space. We have to use one word, so we're using elderly. And it's like, no, we need to get past this. And so we're really trying as an organization to get past this. This is an older squirrel, not an elderly squirrel or a geriatric squirrel. So then here we have the term geriatrics. This is a noun. It's the branch of medicine looking at, now this thing wasn't good, diseases, debilities, look at that, problems of aging, and then problems specific to the age. What do you think of that? Does that make you want to grow old?
You're in a prime spot.
Is there any definition, I'll get you next. Is there anything in that definition that makes you want to grow older? No. Problems, diseases, disability, it's like, really? Come on. And this is in the medical dictionary besides. Now what did happen here though is we put the S on geriatric that made it a noun. So when I got hired at UNE and they said you were going to be the director of geriatric education and research, I said, could you please put the S on that? I don't want to be the director of education and research with significant disorders. I'm not doing it. So let's put the S on there. And that S, for me, makes all the difference. Other people don't really know, but I just keep banging that drum. This, it's still in dictionaries, but I'm going to tell you it's passé. So I was president of a national organization from 2008 to 2010. We actually had international members, the Association for Gerontology and Geriatrics in Higher Education. 2 years is good because then you have a chance to carry something through, right? So in the first year, I get everybody together and I say, all our members, I say, we are changing the definition of geriatrics. And within a year, we had our definition, and it is on our website. the study of health and disease in there. Was it so hard to put health in there?
No.
It was not. One guy said it took you a year to do it. What's the matter? We added health instead of problems of aging and abilities associated with aging. We said it's the study of health and disease. The comprehensive health care, physical, emotional, social, spiritual. We are whole people. And I don't know if you know it, we do not have a healthcare system. We have a medical intervention something, right? And all it does is fragment us. You know, there was a time, and you remember this, we could go to a primary care physician and have everything kind of looked at, right? And they walk you through it and they work with you. And now it's like, oh, your toe hurts, I'm going to send you to a podiatrist.
Right.
So your elbow hurts, I'm going to send you to an orthopedic. It's like, would you please look at this?
It takes you weeks to get there.
And it takes you absolutely,
Months. Yeah.
absolutely. So this comprehensive healthcare, and that's why I like osteopathic medicine, because what happens in osteopathy, what should happen, we try to teach our students, is that they find out if you come in with an ankle that bothers you, they're going to say to you, what's going on in your life that now you're having a hesitation of moving forward? Right? That ankle is stopping you. It is a dis-ease, right? And so we're really trying to figure out what is happening in your life that may contribute to whatever it is that that's going on for you. So that's why with that, you can understand in that definition of ageism that if you're not aware of that it could make you sicker, right? That it can, you know, if you're just in a point where you can't move forward, chances are you're going to have a knee problem or a hip problem or an ankle problem, you know, because you're just not ready to move forward. So it's an example, it's not an end-all be-all. And then we had here the well-being of their informal caregivers. We thought that was important to put in because it takes a village, right? You know, we have spouses, partners, family members that we really need to be working with to keep them, to try to obtain the quality of life that they want. That's exactly what Gosnell does. It focuses on quality of life, not length of life. And for the guy with the Harley shield on the back of his wheelchair, that was quality for him. Now, here's an interesting thing. We're going to play with these words again. What happens in your mind when you see care partner compared to care giver? All right. What do you see, Dan?
A partner, somebody who's not giving me something.
That you have a say.
Yes.
Yeah. Pay attention, Sarah. Right? This is actually from the Alzheimer's Association. They're trying to bring notoriety to that we are partners in each other's care. And let me tell you something. Somebody with advanced dementia has autonomy. Notice I didn't say still has autonomy. Somebody with dementia, in the end stages, they have autonomy. Now, they maybe can't speak the words and do things that you would understand. You might have to figure it out a little bit, but if they're in pain or something's going on, there's going to be a way that they can transmit what's happening to them. And with that, if you are a caregiver, you're going to fall all over this person trying to figure out what's going on, rather than sitting back, listening, and saying, what are they trying to say to me? What is happening here that I can understand, and then be a partner in aiding quality of life and comfort. So these words, you know, the S on geriatrics, the LY on elder, the care partner compared to caregiver, they're small, right? But they're huge in my world. Yeah. You know? So here we have older adults equal geriatric population. No. We are the survivors. And actually, we're the ones that people turn to, the younger generation turn to all the time, right? You know, we've been through world wars and we've been through all sorts of things, you know, depression, whatever. And we're the ones that figure out how to move forward. Okay. So I was going to tell you, or anchor for you, why society sees aging the way it does. The first theory of, watch my lips, functional and successful aging is called disengagement theory. Does disengagement sound like a positive word to you?
No.
Not
Right,
right.
disengage in the negative.
Disengagement theory, we're gonna disengage the negative, absolutely. Disengagement theory, Cummings and Henry, 1961. I don't think that's long ago, you know, that's recent. What this theory states, it is mutually beneficial for the elderly to disengage from society and society to disengage from the elderly. It is gradual, it is inevitable. If you want to be a functional and successful ager, what is the ultimate disengagement?
Yeah.
Death. The ultimate disengagement is death. That's the message. You're supposed to, because you're in this older age, you know, we're supposed to disengage and just kind of go off and decide somewhere. Do we wonder why we have such a negative view of aging? Let me tell you something about this too. Disengagement theory. This is scary. Pay attention. This is still in textbooks today. And it was debunked years ago. This theory was reformulated by Lars Tornstam from Denmark. The new theory is called gerotranscendence. There is such a thing as positive self-solitude. It's not that you're totally disengaged. Maybe you're an introvert. Maybe you like to meditate. You know, you walk into a person's nursing home, and I have students go in and I say, don't assume this person's disengaging. Maybe they really want, that's the only sanity they have, is sitting in their room and being quiet. And that's gerotranscendence. But disengagement, the way you think about it is that person's disengaged, they're already written off, we're not going to spend any time with them. So people believe disengagement theory, and there are people teaching this theory. We can't get it out of textbooks. They're teaching it without really knowing what it means and thinking critically about the message that they're sending forth. So let me tell you about this theory. This was part of my doctoral dissertation too. I dug into everything in this theory. Upshot of it was, I found out that there were only 279 people that were in the sample. That's not much. That's not much. I also found out that people were in their 40s up to their 90s, and they changed the survey that they had for the people who were 70, 80, and 90 because they thought they wouldn't be able to answer a long survey. So then it gets better. It gets better. So then I'm reading along, it says, this was 279 middle Americans. I'm like, middle Americans? What is that? Middle socioeconomic, middle educated, what? They were from Kansas City, the middle of America. Now, you're laughing about this, but nobody ever sees that in the textbooks. You don't see it.
What did you write about?
I wrote my dissertation on the early theories of aging. I was like, this is not good. We need to debunk this theory. So that tells you about that. Absolutely. In a few years, I couldn't do that when I was a kid. You know, I said, who you are when you were younger is probably going to be who you are when you're older. There was a term up there called social construction of reality. Anybody familiar with that? Berger and Luckman, 1966. And actually what social construction of reality is, and I usually show this by doing thumb wrestling, but I'm not going to do that today. So what it is that, you have two people come together and they believe something is so. And then we get more people. We get Dan and Sarah in, and they really like it. But then we have Maureen and Carolyn over there, and they're like, no, that is not true. I don't believe it. And then, so we have two against like 5 or 6 of us. Now, because we have numbers and because we're loudmouths, we bring our idea forward. There's no research on it. It's just we bring our idea forward, and they fall by the wayside. That's social construction of reality. Everything that has happened with aging right now in terms of negative stereotypes has been socially constructed by theories such as that, by self-belief that people have bought into because of what they've read. And that's what we have to work on. is to try to get people to think beyond what is our society saying and saying, how do I feel? And what am I contributing? And all of us can contribute right to our last dying breath. I plan on teaching to my last dying breath. You know, somehow I'm going to make that happen. So that social construction, just look around you. You'll see it. People just, you'll hear that whole, we're seeing it in politics. It's all over the place. So here's the social clock, and this is about society. So this is the things that's supposed to happen. So you're supposed to rot in your rocker, right? That's what our society says. Our medical student said she got stuck there. Chances are she was a dancer, and she can just keep doing that, right? If you don't use it, you lose it. I think there is some truth to that. So then we have here. I'm not applauding your erection. I'm trying to turn off the lights. What our society says is that people, as they get older, our society says that people are going to be sexless, right? If that was true, then there wouldn't be a 20% increase in HIV/AIDS in Florida on the older adult population because, now here's the term again, the condo Casanovas are going from condo to condo having unprotected sex with the older women there. So, the condo Casanovas. So there we have the media again, right? Now I bet there are some guys that really like, ooh, I'm a condo Casanova. But it's really a derogatory term, right? And so for people, and I actually present on sex and aging, which is like way too much fun. But if you, again, if you are a very sexual person, then you will continue that. Your activity around sex may change. You may move into more emotional intimacy. There may be more physical intimacy without sexual intimacy. But all of that is still feeding your soul and feeding your heart because it's about companionship. And that's what's important. Okay, so it doesn't mean that you have to go to the bars at night and you have to pick up somebody and then you have to go, go home and have sex with somebody. That's a 20, when you're in your 20s and 30s. I'm just checking. And I see you out in Boston by Okay. So then we have wake up, the cat's got your teeth. So again, in terms of our society, we become more fragmented, right? We lose our teeth, we lose our hair, we grow whiskers, I don't know. But this gets into that fragmentation again. And then this last one, here we go for the older drivers of the dogs. That's the social. This is a bumper sticker. I'm so old that whenever I eat out, they ask me for my money up front. Compassionate Ageism. Any of you heard Betty Friedan, The Fountain of Age? Is that book here? That is a wonderful book. That's a wonderful book. It's seminal works from 1993, I think. So Betty Friedan came up with this term, and it is assisting an older adult with good intention. However, here's the important part. The actions are motivated by your perception that the person can't do the task. Yeah. So for any of you that have parents living, or you have friends around you that maybe need some assistance, or you go in the grocery store and you see somebody that might be struggling, do you jump in right away to help, or do you ask first? Regardless of whether you jump in or ask, what are you thinking? If you're thinking they can't do it, then you are doing this. You have compassionate ageism. And when I was down in Concord, Mass, and I was presenting to their senior center, people from their senior center, I had 150 people. And it was a blast. It was a lot of fun. And so afterwards, of course, everybody goes to the bathroom, right? And there was this woman with a walker, and she was going into the bathroom. I'll never forget this. And she's doing this amazing thing with this walker, and I'm just standing back like, wow, this is awesome. And we get into the bathroom, and she turns around and she says, I want to thank you for not helping me. She said, you would be surprised how many people just push the door open and I fall over. Because I know just where to put the water, I know just how to get through this door. And then people just jump in without asking. And if they do ask, chances are it's because they feel she can't do it. And I was just fascinated by it. It was like an engineering lesson. So this is important this term. So Betty Friedan, the Fountain of Age. And then this term, anybody here nurses? Oh, I'm sorry to say this term actually came from the nursing profession, or the nurses kind of grabbed onto it. They are very much friendly helpers. And this is where you're assisting others to the point where they either no longer will or no longer can do a task. This is not just about aging. So to give you an example around aging, when my students are living in the nursing home and they're having dinner, and their friend Evelyn is next to them, and the certified nursing assistant, CNA, comes up and starts cutting Evelyn's meat and starts fixing her coffee. And the student looks at Evelyn and says, Evelyn, you could do all that. Why are you letting her do it? And Evelyn says, makes her feel better. Well, what's going to happen with that is Evelyn is no longer going to be able to cut her meat or fix her own coffee because she's going to lose that fine motor skill. And you know that the certified nursing assistants are doing it because they have a short time frame, right? They got to get everybody through. Now really think about this. If any of you were single parents, or you both worked and you had your children, and you needed to get them out the door and onto the bus really fast, how many of you just threw on coats, boots, hats, and threw them out the door? A second grade teacher of mine said, I had said to the kids, get ready, go outside and play. She had 5 children sitting there looking at her. They didn't either know how to buckle their boots or zip their jacket because their parents did all that for them and they never learned it. This is second grade, 7 years old. That is learned helplessness. And then with the students, whenever I talk about this with students, and I'm looking at them, and of course they're stressed, right? How many of you know how to make the coffee? How many of you know how to write a check? How many of you fix the car? How many of you get gas in the car? How many of you, cook the meals? And they're looking at you like, my roommate or my spouse or my partner does all that because I'm in school. It's like, well, you are at risk of losing the ability to do those skills. And especially in older age, you need to know everything from both partners' perspectives, right? You need to know what banks, where the legal papers are. You need to know how to do all that. So teach each other and work with each other and work with your friends. Okay? Any questions about any of this? No. We doing okay?
We're good.
Yes. You got it? You got it? You got it? How we doing? Okay, I'm moving. All right. So the Frameworks Institute, we're almost done. The Frameworks Institute did this research, and they took these nouns: senior, elder, senior citizen, older person, older adult. They said to thousands of people, put those on a chart from least competent to most competent. This is where it came out. Least competent, so senior, like senior discount. Society sees that as somebody being least competent. Older adult, older person, senior citizens in the middle, more competent. Then they said to the group, add the age association to that. What ages would you apply to these nouns? 69, 68. For an older person, older adult, 54. Right? So now, let's do this. Let's take the word elderly. Does that go to most competent or least competent? Elderly. Least competent. What age would you assign to somebody who is elderly? 100. Students are usually around 80, 85, but this group, of course, you're going to be around 100. So there's the adjective, and it brings you right off the scale. Now, according to the Frameworks Institute, older person is the most neutral term, so we should be using older people, older person. I use older adult, older person, older people. But we're up on that most competent. We want people to view us as being competent. So then this word choice thing, now we're back to the World Health Organization, and they had the institutional or societal. How many of you hear about the age tsunami that's coming? That's crisis, right? That's crisis thinking. Other people will say the age wave. They're a little easier to take, right? I mean, it could be 1 foot wave, a 2 foot wave, but no. The media needs to talk about the aging tsunami. And then we have, the younger, the millennials, and Gen Zs and all that are saying, oh, you know, okay, boomer, right? I mean, I'm a boomer, and you're taking up our resources and we need to push you out. So now we're back to that disengagement theory. We need you out and away and disengaged in order for the younger people to have a full life. Wrong. That's not true at all. As a matter of fact, we help them with finding quality of life. So then we have the word choice, and this is going to be the personal or even interpersonal. So I looked up the term crow's feet, right? I just put Google, I put crow's feet. This is the picture that came up. Crow's feet. What are crow's feet? I mean, real crow's feet. What does a crow look like? A crow is a bird, right? It's black. So I put in bird crow's feet, and I get this. I'm like, well, that's attractive. I'm not kidding. This really happened to me. I put in crow's feet, and I got that, the woman. And then when I had to put bird in there as an identifier, and I got this. And I thought, this is bad news. Do we equate those? So I decided we are now going to call them peacock feathers. That reframing is just so important. And how many in that personal time that we're talking with friends and colleagues, oh God, yes, I have these crow's feet. I have peacock feathers. Or I have black flies. Right? I mean, we really need to be careful about that language that we use. If you get up in the morning and you say something like, I'm too old for this, stop yourself. And say, let me reframe this. You know, maybe I'm starting off a little slow today. I mean, I've been running for a lot of years. I have arthritis everywhere. And it just takes me a little longer to get warmed up. But it's like, it's okay. I'm still moving, you know? So here we're going back to, and I mentioned it before, it's not only the words, it's how they come across. And we were talking about elder speak. So let me bring this full circle. Moravian, only 7% is communicated through words, 93% through voice tone and body language. So body language is 55% of our communication, and voice tone is 38%. So if you hear my voice tone, would you say that I have a passion in this field? Yes. Okay. If you see my body language, do you think I have a passion in this field? Yes. Well, that's all good because you're not going to remember anything that I said today. Because that 7% means nothing. And what's amazing to me is that these professors that I work with, they're so excited about their field, and they get up there and say, I am so excited to be with you today. We will be together for 5 hours. By the time I'm done, I'm sure you will feel as excited. Right? It's terrible. So if that 7% was so important, then those words would carry to you, but they don't. So what happens when somebody says, Dan, you're in the doghouse, right? As soon as you hear that tone, and then you put the body language, and you think about when you were little and your mother or your dad called you, and you might not have even seen their faces, and you're like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble, you know? But that body language, now this is really interesting. So if you go into a physician's office, how are you today, Beverly? And I'm getting down at your eye level. Because I know you can't stand up. So, but you'll be able to tell as soon as you size someone, you will size them up. And as soon as they encounter you and they talk to you, you're going to say, this person respects me or this person doesn't. You'll be able to tell. Trust this. Trust that 93%. And you can say to them, I hear your words, but I'm not sure that the rest of you is communicating what you really want to communicate to me. And here, if words and body language disagree, the person will naturally believe the body language. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So think about what our society does with aging and how that comes across in how they move, their voice tone, how they talk about it. I'm so sorry, Maureen, that you just had a birthday. It's Sunday. Good. Mine's next week. Mine's Wednesday. We're Taurus. Good. So, actually, my birthday, I learned this from my dad. My birthday's end of April, and I start celebrating on April 1st. And I celebrate through the whole month, because what happens if my birthday is like a crummy day? It's like, you know, and then crap, I just missed my birthday, right? So I celebrate the whole month. And my dad, he was great about this. He lived to 83, and he said, and every morning he would get up and I'd hear him say, happy birthday. Happy birthday to me. And then he would go, cut. Just say, cut. And then on the day of his birthday, we could sing the whole song. And then he'd say to my mom, let's go out to dinner tonight, it's my birthday. My mom was like, it's another 3 weeks away. It's like, yeah, it's my birthday. So that's cool, right? Yeah. So here are all the different ways, you know, facial expressions, eye contact. So I had a geriatrics, notice the S, nurse practitioner come up to me after I showed all this. And she said, Marilyn, I'm the one in the physician office that does the sexual history for the older adults that come in. So she said, older adults, this is good. I was like, okay, we're doing good here. She says, I'm not sure what happens, but it just doesn't go well. And I really care about this, and it's important, and sexual health is important throughout your whole life. I said, I agree. So she said, but I don't know what's happening, that they're not sharing, they're not talking to me. And I don't know what it was, but about the way she said it, and it was that 93%. And I said to her, when you do this sexual history, are you breathing? When you ask the question. And she kind of did one of these. And she said, no, I'm not breathing. And I said to her, when was the last time you felt comfortable talking about sex to somebody who wasn't breathing? This does not bode well. Well, she was so nervous and wanted to ensure that she tried to provide comfort. She would use the right words, but she would hold her breath through the whole thing. And I have since heard from her, and her breathing is going very well, and her sexual are going better as well. So I just wanted you to get a heads up on this. We only have a couple slides on this. Age-friendly health systems and hospitals. Have you heard of them?
No, not really.
This is important. This is really important. Okay, so there are some age-friendly hospitals in Maine. Actually, Maine Medical Center is an age-friendly hospital, but not all departments. Only their geriatrics and their emergency room is an age-friendly. There are certain criteria that they have to meet. But which age do you mean? Like anatomic, psychologic, physiologic, moral, or chronologic? We are complicated. When you've met one older adult, you've met one older adult. And so these age-friendly health systems, age-friendly hospitals, you really can't just clump everybody in because they have white hair or whatever it is, you know, that they fit into this system. We really need to individualize better in our health system, get past medical intervention. So I'm going to read this quote to you. It's from 2003, but it still applies. The period between the ages of 65 and 105, a full 40 years, represents a significant portion of one's lifespan, right? Healthcare providers would never consider equating the healthcare needs of a newborn with the needs of a person in early middle age. Okay, so they would never equate the needs of a newborn with a person in early middle age. Both members of the cohort of the first 40 years of life, right? They wouldn't do it. As medical care for older adults is explored, also spanning 4 decades now, we must anticipate and appreciate the developmental, biological, psychosocial, and functional diversity. So you have somebody that comes in that's 60, and you have somebody that comes in that's in their 100s or 80s or 90s. They are not the same person. They have different needs and different ways of working with that person. And our healthcare system, if we're going to have healthcare, needs to do that. So here is the age-friendly health systems. What matters is what we teach our medical students. Now, most medical schools have 5 hours of geriatrics in their first and second year of medical school. We have 60 hours of geriatrics in our first and second year of medical school. And some of you here are GEMS, Geriatrics Education Mentors. If anybody wants to learn about that program, I'm happy to share that with you because we need more GEMS. But our students do 6 home visits over their first 2 years of medical school with our GEMS. And it is amazing learning, I think for the GEMS, as well as for the students. So it's very cool. So that's one of the things that we do, but we're at least getting that relationship thing going. But this, what matters, they ask that in almost every session with their GEM. Now it's matters most. They're trying to stay with the M's, right? So matters most. Mobility is our functional. Medication is that polypharmacy. If you are on 2 medications, there's a risk of interaction. If you're on 4 medication, that risk goes to 25%. If you're on 6 medications, that risk goes to 50%. So I had a person in a cardiac rehab program that I was running, 8 different physicians, 26 different medications. Wow. We were able to work with all of those physicians and get them down to 6 medications. The person instantly felt better, right? That means that 20 of those medications were for the side effects of what was happening. And that's called iatrogenesis. That is a medically induced error, iatrogenesis. So go to your pharmacist with your medication, not your physician, because they really don't know. What are you doing, Allison, with the polypharmacy here? Do you send them anywhere?
We know that is a big problem because we see a lot of the patients in the community that are on 26 medicines.
Yeah.
And it's, I guess we do kind of refer them back to their physician. Unfortunately, I guess we should come to the pharmacy. But talk to them about
going to the pharmacist is the best bet, actually.
Yeah.
The other thing is, just so you know, 65% of older adults that go into the emergency room, it's because the last known medication they were prescribed by their provider. 65%. 17% of those people will end up being admitted into the hospital.
And then forget it.
And then forget it, right? Hospital is the worst place to be, really. You got to keep functioning. So mentation is that cognitive piece. So these 4 M's, we're trying to get all our students to ask the GEMS what matters most to you. And that's going to change, right? When our students are doing end of life, the 5 wishes, advanced directives, and that 5th assignment, your matters most might be different when you answer the questions that the students have. As compared to your life review in the first assignment that they do, what matters most could be something totally different. You know, it's making sure I can drive my car or whatever, you know. So that matters most can change, but all of you should be thinking about what matters most, and you should be familiar with that, because when you see your provider and they start saying, oh, we're going to send you for this test, that, blah, 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 is that part of your quality of life? Does that meet what matters most to you? And you know, there are people out there that say, you know, yes, I have cancer, but my quality of life and pain control is more important to me than trying to cure at all costs. And our medical intervention system will try to cure at all costs. We'll try to cure. So you really got to think about what matters most to you. You know, when is enough? So here's your take ageism is alive and growing, right? Be aware how you feel about age and your own aging, right? Do you need to reframe how you're thinking about this? Not only for yourself, but when you're in the store and you're looking at somebody else and like, look at that old doddering fool. That's not good. That's ageism. Okay? Try this. Heart open, boundaries up. I say it to our students all the time. Whatever's happening in your life, somebody could drive you absolutely crazy. Keep your heart open, knowing that there's some reason why this person is just that way, right? Probably always that way. And then your boundaries up so that you protect yourself. I think being kind to everyone, being loving towards everyone is just so important, and being forgiving is incredibly important. Listen with your heart, and then be authentic, who you are, and be present. You get to decide that, you know. You came today, I felt like you were really with me today, and I really appreciate that. You were present. And I had a big time with you too, so that was fun. So I'm gonna read this to you, and on a funny note. Here we got Words Matter. 9 oldsters booted out of a nursing home for trying to have a sex orgy. And we have music. So I'll read parts of it. A group of, pay attention to the word, a group of 9 love-hungry codgers were booted out of an old folks' home after they tried to have an orgy in the recreation room. The unidentified oldsters, who ranged in age from 73 to 98, had apparently planned the unauthorized after-hours get-together for weeks. They somehow got in their heads to celebrate the 90th birthday of one of the women with a kind of sex party. This may sound harmless and amusing to some people, but at Scarborough in England, we have a reputation to uphold. Okay? The nursing home made a concerted effort to keep all this out of the story, and they said bizarre story out of the papers. But according to British papers, here we go, the Let It All Hang Out party took place just after midnight on October 28th. The 3 wrinkly Romeos and 6 sagging seductresses gathered together in the rec room and stripped to the buff. So here's a staffer saying they really set the scene. They got their hands on candles, which they lit, and even put on music to create a sexy mood. The nude geezer gala went on for about 20 minutes before orderlies heard rumble music from the recreation room and went to investigate. When they opened the doors, they were shocked to find the old-timers crowded together in their birthday suits, slathered in baby oil. So the staffer says, they hadn't gotten too far. I guess it was taking some of the gents a while to get started. But here's the quote. But they were all naked. Believe me, it was the scariest thing I've seen in my life. True story. It will still come out today. And what I want to do is invite all of you to the main geriatrics conference. It's June 9th and 10th. We can pay your registration through a grant that we received. So if you are interested in attending this conference, I know Maureen, you already signed up. If you're interested in attending this conference, somehow I got to get my contact information to you, and I can give you the code so that you can sign up. And then we have a list of hotels that you can sign up for. But we will have 40 older adults paid for by this conference. So if it's not you, if it's somebody else, 60 years of age and older does it, and we would love to have you come to the conference. And you get to really get down and dirty with people, and we have some pretty important activities. Is there body? What are they at night with rumba music? She's leaving. Any questions?